Welcome to the Quick Time Event Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Josh, and as always, I am joined by my good friend John.
The on-time lad today.
The Quick Time Event Podcast is a chance for John and I to get together each and every week to talk about all of the nerdy things that we love. If you like what you hear, you can find us live on twitch.tv/CDRMagnus every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, or on all of your favorite podcast services all across the internet shortly after the live show ends. This is episode 108 of the QuickTime Event Podcast. We're going to be talking about Xbox for a long time.
We are.
But before we get to that, you do anything fun recently? Any games? You finish, you were playing something.
I did do some games. I did two whole games.
You did some games.
I overcame my fear and played through Hellblade.
All the way?
Very good game. Yeah, all the way. I didn't get every single lore stone, whatever those were, which makes me sad because they were very interesting. I didn't figure out that the little glyphs lit up as you got them to like show your progression. But I don't really like playing games, at least not a first time, with a guide. I feel like you end up kind of spoiling some stuff for yourself, so I just avoid that. I heard that all I missed was some kind of cutscene before the final. Very good game. Would recommend to a friend. Very, very interesting to see how they were able to show. I assume it's is it a mental disorder, mental disease?
Yeah, I mean,
I still don't 100% know what it is.
I think they just call it psychosis. So it's some sort of psychiatric disorder is the root of the thing.
It was very interesting to see them kind of show that to somebody who doesn't have it. Because that would be absolutely horrifying if that was my life.
Right. Plus, you live in this like fucked up world where just people will go around their village, kill people for no reason. There's like disease. There's disease here, but at least we can like figure out what the disease is. Back then, it was just like, you have this disease.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh, you hear voices? Well, you're
sucks,
possessed.
Man.
You've got the darkness in you.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks. So yeah, really, really good game. Very, very well done. It has me excited for the second one. Even if you don't like scary games, I would still play it. As somebody who does not like scary games, I enjoyed it. There were only a couple of sections that really kind of got to me.
Yeah, it's
they don't rely on jump scares.
That's what I like about it. I don't like stupid like PG-13 rated Friday the 13th jump scare movies. I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't like Friday the 13th or Freddy vs. Jason or whatever the fuck. I don't like that kind of shit. I don't like just like having my adrenaline run for no reason. I don't like that.
Yeah, no thanks.
But I do like Lovecraftian psychological horror. That's the stuff that I do like. And this is very much that, where it's horror because the situation you're in is truly horrific.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with
100%.
It has nothing to do with necessarily like trying to scare you as the player or as the viewer or whatever. It's more about trying to make you feel uneasy because of the situation the character is in and the world around them.
Yeah.
And
They're just trying to instill fear in you.
Right. Hellblade does a great job of that.
Yes. Again, the combat left something to be desired, but that was not the point of the game. So, I also bought and played and beat a very short game, but I finally did end up playing Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Oh, nice.
So that was fun. That was a fun little, 2.5 hours.
On Switch?
No, I got it for 360 or 360. Jeez.
I got it for
Xbox.
My Xbox 360.
Yep. I downloaded it and I somehow ported it back to my 360.
I mean, it runs on a fucking iPhone. It should run on 360.
Yeah, I would imagine. It was a fun game. I I don't remember my like actual real thoughts about it though.
Yeah, I mean
It was
it's
fun. It wasn't like world changing.
no.
I enjoyed the music. The aesthetic was very pleasing, but like didn't change my worldview.
No.
Just a fun little 2.5 hour experience or so.
Sure. I'd say it's like a very I wouldn't want to say it's a meditative game, but it if you're in the right mindset and you play the game and you're grooving with the music and like you're getting something out of it, that's sort of what it is. It's like not like this
Yeah.
mind-blowing indie experience like Journey or I don't know, other indie games that are not in my head right now that have like shaped how video games are played. Like it's not like this huge
Yeah.
experience in this tiny package. It's like a, a good like feel good experience kind of in this little tiny package.
Yeah, it was a good time. I think that's really it for games. Yeah. Yeah, that's it for games. How about you? What have you been up to?
Since we last talked, I finished The Walking Dead's the final season, and I guess it ended fine. It was fine. Perfectly fine way to end that game, I guess.
Fine
Nothing
is
really.
probably not what they were aiming for whenever
I
they had to
mean,
reach the
they
conclusion to
were
this.
they were dead at that point. It's just like, what are you aiming for? You're a corpse that just like you're a corpse that died before you let the arrow go, and as you died, you lost feeling in your hand, and you let the string go, and that arrow is just going to go wherever it's going.
Yep.
You're not controlling it. You have no say.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with that series, it's kind of disappointing because they hit the high in the first game. Like, for The Walking Dead, at least, the best season was the first season. And from season 1, it went a little bit down in season 2, way down in season 3, and then it came back up to just below season 2, I guess, for me. So I guess it came back up a little bit, but
Sure.
it never hit the high that season 1 had.
No, it's like lightning in a bottle. Can't get it again.
For sure. So I did that, and then I started Ghost of Tsushima on Friday, and it's really good.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of positive feedback on that game.
Yeah, it's a very, I guess I would call it like a safe open world game, in that, like, again, I think I mentioned this a little bit last week just based on what a lot of the reviews were saying, but the game doesn't do anything like extraordinary or that even really that different from what other
Sure.
open world games give you. I think the things that it does very well is the environment and the atmosphere of the island. It is very much like you are fucking in Japan. Just based on the week and a half I spent in Japan a couple of years ago, this just takes me right back there. The environments are just so beautiful. The weather effects and the particle effects that just go through the island with like the leaves falling, the thunderstorms, the rain, the way the clouds move through, the fog, it's all stunning. In a different way than The Last of Us does. Like when you look at The Last of Us's environment, it's very lifelike. They went for photorealism with everything. Ghost of Tsushima doesn't really go, I mean, it is obviously photorealistic, but they go a little bit abstract with it in that they kind of, at least in
They give
my
you like
mind,
the ideal environment.
yeah, but it's also, it really draws upon a Eastern art. Like the way that like there's these scenes where these big red Japanese maple leaves are falling off the trees, and it just feels like you're in a painting, a photorealistic painting, but like it feels like a painting in a way.
Sure.
And I think that's definitely what the game does best, is the environments and the atmosphere of Tsushima as a location. A lot of the gameplay is very fun. The abilities, the combat's very fun. It's kind of a little stale at the beginning until you start unlocking things. But once you start to get like your full arsenal and you are able to, diversify what you're doing in your combat scenarios, it's really fun to kind of play through those as a sandbox. I haven't really gotten too far through the story. I think I just finished Act 1 of 3 acts yesterday. So I'm only a third of the way or so through the game. I will say that it handled the open world, what do you want to call it? Like the open world mission stuff, like all of the side quests, all of the little stuff you can run off and explore on your own time. All the shrines you have to find. You follow a bunch of foxes to little Inari shrines. You can climb up these mountains to these shrines to the major kami that are kind of like those kind of feel like Assassin's Creed 2 tombs that if you remember those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like platforming and climbing and stuff. There's a mini game sort of where you write haiku. That's pretty cool. A lot of that stuff is it's not overwhelming in any sense. It's very much measured and controlled, and at no point do you feel like, oh my fucking god, I'm drowning in question marks. There's just so many fucking question marks on the map.
No Assassin's Creed Odyssey effect.
No. The map is huge. It's a very, very large map, but I feel like they did a good job of balancing it. So I'm really enjoying my time with it. It's definitely going to be up in the 8 to 9-ish range on a 10-point scale. I want to see where the story goes, obviously. But this really feels, if this is their first entry into what I assume is probably going to be a series for Sucker Punch, this is a great starting point for them. So
good.
Really enjoying my time with Ghost. Definitely pick it up if you have a PS4. And want to send the generation out on a high note.
All right.
I played Overwatch today.
Oh, how'd you do? Did you win?
No, actually, I'm on this like horrible losing streak, like really, really bad. Multiple days where I'm like in the red by like 4 or 5 games. Like I win 2 and lose 6, or I win 1 and lose 4 or 5.
See, what you got to do then is get a little drinky drink and loosen up. You're gonna get into your own head. You gotta just relax.
It's probably true, but
you have the skills, you have the abilities. They're lying dormant under stress.
Yeah, I need to go into an onsen and just take a nice meditative hot springs bath, and that'll loosen up my brain, give me more max health, and I'll move on with my life.
Yes, that or booze, one of the two.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, I opened up Overwatch today, and I noticed there was a new experimental card on the screen, and I clicked into that experimental card to see what was going on, because
what is an experimental card?
So the experimental card is basically like, it's not the public test realm, but it's basically like, hey, we want to make a change to the game, but we're not sure if it's going to like go over well, or we're not sure that's going to be balanced correctly. So like every now and then they'll introduce changes on it's if you click into the game, like where it says quick play, competitive play, there's another card there that says experimental. And it's just a playlist. It's just the regular Overwatch game with the changes they're planning to make or hoping to make or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I open up the experimental card, and there's two changes. One is a little Genji nerf, which is very much needed because Genji is a fucking nuisance in this meta right now. With Brigitte's nerf a couple weeks ago, this matters to no one aside from those that like to play Overwatch. I'm sorry, but this is worth talking about. Genji got a little nerf, which is fine by me. I saw it coming. I'm glad it's coming. It's fine. Scroll down a little bit more, and I see a Moira thing. Moira's my main. Moira has been a hot topic in the Overwatch community for a very long time because a lot of people that don't want to wait.
Moira.
A lot of people that don't want to wait in 15-minute DPS queues in some cases, especially on like the Xbox platform where there are a total of like 6 people that play that game on the Xbox.
They're just constantly playing with each other.
Yeah. People that don't want to wait 15 minutes for a DPS character will queue up in the support queue just because they want to play the game. but they want to play a DPS character, so they go Moira. And then they refuse to heal anybody, and they just sit there with their right click sucking people. Sucking instead of doing healing. DPS Moira has been an issue for a long time. And so they've been trying to figure out, they've like nerfed her in other ways and boosted her healing ability, and they just have not been able to figure out.
They've really tried to make people use her as a healer.
Yeah.
As a support class and not do damage.
They've tried everything at this point with her. And they just cannot find the right balance. And they went with a rework. Like, not a complete rework, but like a halfway rework with her. Where in the experimental queue right now, they didn't touch her healing at all. Her healing is the same. Coalescence is the same. With her damage orb, though, they've boosted the damage by a lot, depending on how closely you throw the orb to the other person. So now, like if you just throw this orb which bounces around on the walls into a room, it's not necessarily going to do as much damage as it used to do. But if you get the orb to essentially hit another player, it'll do 150 damage in 1 second.
That's a kill.
Pretty much a kill.
Some squishy characters.
Yeah, if Tracer has a little damage on her, Tracer's dead, like right away.
Yeah.
So they bumped up the damage. And then here's the really weird thing. Is now when Moira fades, the entire team will fade for 1 second. So if we get a Diva Bomb coming in, and Diva Bomb's about to explode, Moira can hit fade real quick right at the end. Everybody fades out. Diva Bomb explodes. No one dies. What the fuck is this? I don't understand where this came from. They buffed her. Like, that is 100% a buff. The people,
how is this discouraging anybody from playing as a DPS version?
No idea. I have no idea.
Hey, we don't want people to use her to fight, so let's increase her damage and make the whole team invincible.
Some of the criticism I've seen of Moira recently has been that she is a low barrier, like she's a low skill hero, because her primary attack her primary attack fire is basically an auto lock on. You don't have to like aim necessarily. You still have to aim, but it's more.
You got to be in the general area.
A lot of people have wanted like that to be taken away, and for it to be, you have to actually use the reticule to lock onto somebody instead of just having it in the general area. That's a nerf. Yeah. What they did was they didn't touch that at all. They touched the damage orb and boosted the damage of it. Granted, the radius is smaller. It's like 1 meter smaller or whatever. So it's going to be harder to hit people with the orb. I get that. But like, it's going to do more damage for people that are actually good with Moira, especially the DPS mains that just want to do damage and aren't worried about healing. They're going to fucking run.
The ones who play precision shooting characters.
Right. They're going to run fucking head over heels over these people with this rework of Moira. I have no idea what's going on.
That's certainly a decision that Blizzard has made.
I'm sorry if you don't play Overwatch and we just spent 5 minutes talking about my Overwatch main, but it's very important to me and I felt like it was worth talking about.
Hey, that is valid. Before we jump into the giant topics, I figured I'd ask you this because I saw it and I think you had feelings on this at one point. Ubisoft. Did you see everything that's been happening with them?
Which thing?
A lot. I was specifically going to get into how I guess Cassandra was supposed to be the main character in what was it, Odyssey?
Yes.
And a bunch of higher up execs were like, "No, women don't sell, so you can't do that. She can't be the only."
Women don't sell. Meanwhile, we got PlayStation over here with Horizon Zero Dawn, which is the fastest new selling IP ever to launch for them. And then Last of Us Part 2, which is now the best selling first party game that they've had in the time that it's been out. Like, okay, fuck off with your women don't sell bullshit. That's fucking horse shit, first of all. But then the coup de grace is the dude that like enforced that policy and got them to change it, has now been let go because he's a fucking piece of shit and abuses and harasses his especially female and minority employees. So yeah, Ubisoft's got a lot of shit to work through right now. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what the fuck is that. Like Yves Guillemot is like the only executive left. He's the CEO of the company. I kind of feel like Yves knew what was going on. I kind of feel like he knew, and he just didn't do anything about it until now. And now they're making changes.
Yeah, unless he was like, I don't know. Everybody who worked directly under him just kind of put him in a room with candy, and they were like, "Have fun, don't worry about anything."
Yeah, I really don't know what's gonna happen because it was like it was like 4 top level like senior executives were let go from the company.
Yeah,
the one guy who I don't know his name, but whoever we were just talking about was like he was like the primary creative lead on Assassin's Creed, I think Watch Dogs, and 2 of their other series. Like he was the lead creative person for most of their games, and now he's gone.
Whoop.
Which I'm super glad for. But
yeah, it's nice to know that like shitty people can actually have consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm really happy for the employees of Ubisoft who no longer have to work under an oppressive, shitty regime. That's great. I'm really curious to see what happens to these games going forward, these series, and how much they're going to change because they no longer have the input of people who don't think that women should be leads in video games.
How different do you think Assassin's Creed would have been if Cassandra could have been the only playable character?
I think it would have been how different. There definitely would have been a difference for sure.
Because if I remember right, whenever you were talking about it, you said that she was great and everybody else was kind of blandish.
Yeah, I think most people played as Cassandra that I know.
Okay.
It was either you played as Cassandra or you played as her brother Alexios. And
yes,
I think most people did play as Cassandra. I might be wrong on that, but at least the people that are like public facing entities, like streamers and content creators and reviewers, mostly played as Cassandra over Alexios because she just looked more interesting. And you could tell, like, just by the voice acting and like throughout the game, you could just tell that she was a more interesting character.
Sure.
I will say to Ubisoft's credit on that, at least they were able to work it so that there wasn't a barrier for relationships. Like,
okay, yeah, I heard about that.
As Cassandra, you were not locked out of being in a relationship with a female, and as Alexios, you were not locked out of being in a relationship with a male. So it didn't really change I guess like the love system that they had, because there was like a sort of you could have sex with characters. I don't know that you could like start a relationship with characters, really. I don't remember because I only played maybe halfway through that game, but you could bang your way across Greece if you wanted to. There were so many opportunities for it. So yeah, I don't know how much it would have changed it. It definitely would have. I mean, it costed resources to make that other character, right? So if you could take away the resources that it made to create Alexios as a main character, because he was in the game, whoever you didn't play as was still in the game.
I figured.
If you could take away that character as a main character and like move those resources to other parts of the game, it might have been better. I have no idea.
All right. But, fair enough.
Yeah. Weird times for Ubisoft.
Definitely.
Maybe now that guy's gone, someone can bring Sam Fisher back. Maybe he was the guy up top that was like, no more Splinter Cell. Not under my watch.
Man. No more high-tech spy man. Only ancient spy people who also kill.
Yeah. Subterfuge only belongs with blades. Yes. And I guess drones in the in the case of Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
So John just said we have a lot to talk about, and he's right. Because we had...
this run of Show Doc is so long.
I mean, it's so long, but it's because I put every single game that was in that. We don't have to talk about all of these. We're going to mention a lot of these in passing. But before we get to Xbox, do we want to go right into Xbox, or do we want to quickly address the Nintendo thing?
Let's quickly address that.
Okay. So Nintendo put out a little Direct Mini on... Was that Monday or Tuesday?
Monday, because they announced it Sunday night. I think at like 10 at night, and it was the next day at like I think 12 Eastern time, like 9 Pacific. And it was like, man, you really wanted to take people by surprise. Were you mad that people
No, it wasn't.
Leaked the date?
It was 7 a.m. Pacific time. It was 10 a.m.
Oh yeah, that's right.
10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, where all of the actual people like in the games, like where the games industry is in the United States, they put it at 7 a.m.
They gave 12-hour notice.
Well, they could not be more clear that this was something that you should really not be paying attention to. Do not fucking get your hopes up, Nintendo fans. Don't do it, because we gave you 12 hours notice, and this is at 7 a.m.
Also, in their release, they said partner only, third parties, no first parties.
Of games that have already been announced.
Yeah, nothing new, just like continuing development information. It's only 10 minutes. This is what you're getting for now.
Yeah. so they give that grade notice there.
100% spelled out.
Yes.
Impossible to misinterpret.
They never explicitly said that it was 10 minutes, but somehow it got leaked that it was 10 minutes long at some point.
I thought that they did, but regardless.
And so we get the Direct Mini, and here's what we get from it. It starts off with Cadence of Hyrule DLC.
Didn't know that was coming, but neat.
Cool.
I'll go back and play that again.
Then it went into something on a new game called Rogue Company, which didn't do anything for me in the Direct Mini, but then later in the day, Jeff Keighley had some guy that worked on Rogue Company on his Summer of Games Fest thing on Twitch, and they showed a much, much cooler cinematic trailer about for this game with like it. Nintendo did the thing where they took the game and it's available on Nintendo Switch, but we're Nintendo and we're a family company, so we can't really like show anything cool from this because it's not really intended for children. This
is the Direct Mini.
Right. But then the trailer that they showed at Jeff Keighley's thing was actually really cool, and I was digging a lot of like the tone of the trailer. It was very like punk British, like what do you call that? Like when I think of hooligans. It very much like British hooligans, like going out after a football match and like beating up someone from the other team or something.
Sure.
Like that's the kind of vibe it gave off. But it looks actually like a pretty cool game. It's like somewhere in between like it's not a battle royale, but it looks kind of like a battle royale, but then it plays more like Rainbow Six almost, but in third person. It looks pretty cool. Anyway, in this Direct Mini, it did nothing for me. Total like just like blow this game off kind of thing. Then they moved off into this weird fucking WWE game. I think it's called WWE Battlegrounds or something.
I thought it was called Brawl.
Maybe it's Brawl.
But it's something with a B. That's for sure.
The bodies of the WWE wrestlers made me feel so uncomfortable. I hate the art style of this game. It's like they tried to make like Western style chibi wrestlers. Is how I would describe it.
Love it.
Horrifying.
Great.
This brought us to like 6 minutes into an 8-minute direct. And I, at this point, was like, this is fucking worthless. Why am I watching this? I don't want to be here.
Thank God I didn't have to get up at 7 for this.
Right. And then they drop a trailer for Shin Megami Tensei. We knew it was you could tell it was Shin Megami Tensei when they started the trailer. And I was like, oh shit, Shin Megami Tensei 5 is finally getting more information. This game's been announced for like 4 years. We've had nothing. But then it just turned out to be a remaster of Shin Megami Tensei 3, which no one fucking saw coming.
And I guess from what I've seen on the internet from people who like the series, I think it's held in high regards as one of the great ones.
It is, and it's like I would describe it as like, again, I haven't played it, but from what I can tell from the people that have played it, that I know from the Persona community, they're invested in the Megaten community as well, and
Mega 10.
Mega 10. The Shin Megami Tensei 3 is sort of analogous to Persona 3, where it's like
Okay.
the first game that gets the Western audience, like not just the hardcore Western audience, but like the more like general people that played Final Fantasy VII and know what JRPGs are.
It's accessible.
Right. It made it more accessible on the PS2. So a lot of people came into that series on the PS2 with this game. So it's exciting. I've never played it before. I'm definitely going to. Spring 2021 is the release date. It is going to be on PS4 as well, so I'm going to play it on PS4. But it's going to be on PS4 and Switch early next year. And then they brought out the Shin Megami Tensei 5 news, which is, again, big because we've not heard from that game in 4 years. It looks interesting. Again, I don't really know that much about this series other than the demons, because the demons carry over into the Persona games. So I feel an attachment to some of these ideas, but I don't know what the game is going to play like or be like at all. I am excited for it, though. It is exclusive on the Switch as a game for, I guess, ever. And the most exciting point is that it is finally going to be Atlus's, I believe, first true simultaneous worldwide release. The game is coming out sometime in 2021, most likely in the fall, and it's not just going to be sitting in Japan by itself. It's going to be in Europe, North America, and in their Asia territories as well. So super excited to play this game and not have to wait. When did Persona 5 Scramble come out? It was Halloween, I think. Or maybe that was Persona 5. No, wait. Scramble came out Valentine's Day, I think. And it is now July 23rd. So we're 5 months later. Don't even have a release date yet. Not sure that game's ever coming out.
Nope.
Don't have to worry about that with Shin Megami Tensei 5 because it's coming out at the same fucking time.
Don't have to put a bunch of filters on your Twitter feed so that you don't get spoiled.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, so that Direct Mini was a real, like, just fucking flatline, and then for me, it took off at the end. I know there are a lot of people out there that don't give a fuck about Atlus or Shin Megami Tensei.
The most interesting thing about this Direct Mini to me was the aftermath.
Right, because
the internet that cares about Nintendo was so polarized.
And honestly, they deserve to be polar. I mean, they don't deserve it. That's not
the people who are disappointed do deserve to be disappointed.
That's fair. That's fair. But I would not say that it's like I don't know. Let's okay. Is Nintendo in trouble? That's the question I want to ask real quick before we get into Xbox.
Sure.
Nintendo's last Direct was in September or October of 2019.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
It's almost been a year since their last full Direct. If you look at what Nintendo's done in the past, they have a Direct at E3. They have a Direct in the fall, usually September or October-ish time frame. Then they have a January or February Direct. They have 3 major Directs usually a year. And then they'll have these Direct Minis or these indie showcases or whatever you want to call them spread throughout. Their last Direct was a year ago. After that Direct, we've had, this is the second Nintendo Direct Mini. I don't know that we've had an indie showcase, have we? I don't remember. I don't think we've had one.
Didn't we have like a Nindies Direct at one point? Because you hated the word.
Yeah, but I feel like that was like
it might have been part of the big, like a major one.
Possibly. But like, it's been a long time.
Yes.
Since they've had a Direct.
Nintendo is doing what everybody hates and playing with their cards very close to their chest.
Why do you think that is? I have a theory. But do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm not 100% sure. I'd like to hear your theory first.
So let me preface this by saying when I say is Nintendo in trouble, they're not in trouble in any way like they're not hurting for money.
they're not in trouble of like going bankrupt
No.
tomorrow.
If you've paid any attention to Amazon or Best Buy or eBay or whatever the fuck during this pandemic, they can't, like Best Buy and Amazon can't keep the Switch in stock. It sells out immediately. You have to like, if Wario64 tweets that they have Switches on Amazon, you have to be there in seconds or they're gone.
Yeah, he says in his tweets, it is available, and then parentheses, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Every time.
Animal Crossing is one of the best. It may at this point be the best selling game on Switch. It may have eclipsed Breath of the Wild, and I don't know where Mario Odyssey sits on there, but
yeah,
it very well could be the best selling game on the platform right now.
Yeah, they're
fine.
doing just fine.
They're fine.
They've got their Scrooge McDuck bank vault of money, giant swimming pool of gold coins. They're okay.
Yeah. My theory is that the pandemic is affecting them more than it is any other developer because they're Nintendo. I think that this whole we don't want to be connected in the same way that Xbox and PlayStation are connected is systematic. Not only do they have a poor infrastructure on the Switch for their online communities and their online play, I think that goes a step further into their workplace. And I'm not talking about like they have shitty internet or whatever like that. I just think that
to chat with your coworker, you need to know their coworker code.
Very what you might have to do it by fax. Each company or each person has a fax machine at the company. I think it's just that like
I love it.
They don't have the ability, like they as a company philosophy, they maybe don't want their people working at home on these games because they're so secretive and they're so anal about their fucking IP. Like, what happens if you're, I don't know any Japanese person's name, but like, what if they have a guy working at home and then like their neighbor comes in and they take a picture of Mario 64 remastered or whatever. And then all of a sudden Nintendo loses all of the power. Everyone else has figured this out in the games industry. Everybody else has figured this out, but Nintendo hasn't because I think they're just so secluded in their own little world.
Yeah. I do think that I wonder if it's a pride thing because they came out and said, no, COVID hasn't affected our production or our like timeline for games. We're just fine. Don't worry about it. We tell you it's fine. You just have to take us at face value for that. But then recently, whenever they had like their earnings, like their quarterly earnings announcement or whatever with shareholders and investors, they were like, okay, we might not be as like well off during this pandemic as we originally said. Yeah, but I don't know if it's just them not wanting to like show weakness.
I don't know. I think that there is a little bit more to it than just the pandemic. Because again, we didn't get that January or February direct. That didn't happen. Yeah. And that was, I mean, I guess COVID was a little bit more active in Japan than it was obviously in March when it really became a pandemic.
Yeah.
But they didn't have anything prepared for January or February. Where the concern comes, if they had just skipped January or February, I like it. No one like questions that. Like there were definitely questions about it, but they had a direct mini. They might have had an indie showcase or something similar to that. They showed off Paper Mario like out of nowhere. That was just a trailer that dropped one morning.
Yeah.
So they've had stuff since then.
And I know that they've talked about like doing smaller events.
Right.
But if you do smaller events, again, going back to like the Telltale formula or these episodic games, if you do small things, that means you have to do them more often.
Yeah.
If you do the big directs, you're fine doing it once or like 3 times a year. If you do these little baby things where it's a 15-minute thing and you focus on 2 games, no, we want one like once a month.
Yeah. It's just, the real issue for me comes, it's July. We're 2 months at this point almost past E3, and we always get an E3 direct or something and just silence.
My conspiracy theory is that Nintendo is being spiteful because the Mario remaster, the Mario 3D like remaster anniversary collection thing, I think that they're mad that it got leaked. And they're like, no, you know what?
Now you're not getting
it. It is true, but we're not telling you. Like you'll still get it when we planned on telling you, but you don't get to have hype now. We're taking that away. You're still gonna pay us at the end of the day because we're gonna release it. But you get to just kind of squirm for a couple extra months now.
Yeah.
This is this is the cross you must bear now.
There's something going on there. There's something that's happening. Because this is like the meat and potatoes time. We're in year 3 of the Switch. We should be getting exclusives at this point. We should be getting games. And
plus, I mean, based on where we are, you have the 35th anniversary of Mario. This should be hugely celebrated. It's their flagship franchise. You have everybody wondering what's going on with that teaser from a sequel to Breath of the Wild where we don't even have a name for this game.
Yeah.
And then you have Metroid Prime 4 where like a year ago they said, okay, we weren't happy with where it was going. We've given it to Retro Studios who did the original Prime trilogy and we're doing it from the ground up. Something had to have happened in the last year on both of those games development wise. I'm not saying you have to release it in the next like 6 months, but can you prove to us that you're not just twiddling your thumbs?
We'll talk about this, I think, a little bit later in the Xbox conference too, about like a year's gone by and what have we gotten. But there's also,
again, we're not asking for finished products. We're just asking for a little bit of proof.
Right. Give us like
for our faith,
a little bit of information, because right now our faith is shooketh.
Yeah.
But yeah, the internet is up in a blaze with Nintendo. I think it's simmered down now that Xbox has had their stuff, and now the people have something else to talk about at least.
Yeah.
But after
something
that,
else to get mad about.
After that direct on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was just a fucking garbage pail on fire.
Yeah. God, the most irritating thing was seeing like people tweet and be like, my predictions for this Nintendo Direct. They didn't even say it was a mini. They were just like, no, this is a fully fledged Direct.
Yeah.
I know the truth. And they were like, Mario 3D remasters, Breath of the Wild 2, Metroid Prime 4, new Pokemon, new Smash Bros DLC characters, like every single thing that Nintendo could have released or given information on. They were like, yeah, we're getting news on all of it.
Yeah. No, sir. No.
Have you not learned?
Like it comes out and it's like 8 minutes long and people are like, no, we're going to get everything in this. It's going to be fine.
All these major franchises that they're going to want to talk about for like a while, each one's getting 30 seconds.
And it actually, I don't know if you saw this part, but they actually did a different version of the Direct for Japan.
I heard about that.
And like some of the games they showed, especially at the beginning, because no one in Japan gives a shit about WWE, SmackDown, Battlegrounds, Brawl, whatever the fuck. Yeah. They showed off a new a game in the Atelier franchise. I have no idea what that series is. I know it involves alchemy of some kind, but that's about it. It's like a JRPG girl, like I think that it's a waifu JRPG kind of game.
Okay.
They showed off that game. They showed off some other interesting like Japanese games, and those looked way better than WWE and fucking DLC for an indie game that came out 2 years ago.
Yep.
Whatever.
Please just give us a crumb. That's all we want. A crumb of your first party development.
So
That's
it's July, right? It's July.
Yes. It is in fact July.
Almost August. Which means the fall season starts in 3 weeks-ish is when the fall window opens. Fire Emblem Three Houses launched when? Fire Emblem.
I don't know, because I got into it probably a year and a half after it came out.
I was a little late on it, but I wasn't that late on it.
If you were
I guess it was July. Actually, it came out the 26th, so like next week is when it would have came out.
So in 3 days.
Yeah, I guess that was a summer game. I, for some reason, associated with more with the fall. Maybe that's just because when my friends were getting into it. But
Regardless, they had a game in summer.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, they did just launch Paper Mario a week ago or so.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Anyway, fall's like 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
We need to know when games are coming out. Are any games coming out? Are we getting anything else from the Nintendo first party the rest of this year?
Yeah, can you just let us know if 2020 is kind of just a bust? Like, I promise I won't be mad. I'll get it.
What do you think? Do you think we are?
I think we are. There's no way in hell that anything is stopping Nintendo from having some kind of Mario celebration. It's the 35th anniversary. Like, they can't just ignore that, right?
I don't think they did any of it with Paper. Like, if they were going to ignore, they could have at least said something when Paper Mario came out. But to my knowledge, they didn't. Like, I don't even think there's like a title card on the Paper Mario game that says, "Hey, 35th anniversary."
No, there's not.
So they can't just like let it go. I agree.
No.
Something has to come out. And I guess Paper Mario.
I don't think we're getting Breath of the Wild 2,
No.
Unfortunately. We're definitely not getting Metroid Prime 4. I've seen apparently there's a Twitter account locked down for the anniversary of Mario and also F-Zero.
Yes.
We're certainly not getting anything F-Zero.
No.
They're not just going to drop a new F-Zero game on us. We have to get something for Mario.
Yeah.
Why would they make an entire Twitter social media account for Super Mario's 35th anniversary and then not do anything with it until 2021? Then it's the 36th year. Like, right. that doesn't work.
Is it the 35th anniversary in the U.S.? Like, was there a year of...
Maybe.
Was there a couple years of a localization?
There's probably a localization gap, yeah.
I feel like they have to put something out. It may be one of these if the remasters are true, I feel like it would be something like that. But yeah, we're definitely not getting Breath of the Wild. We're not getting anything new, I don't think.
No. I think that we're getting... I hope it's like a 3-in-1 kind of pack where I'm sure you've seen it too all over the place. Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. I would love to get those 3 games on the Switch. Preferably not at $60 a pop. I'd be fine with either $40 a pop or like the dream is $60 for all 3. But I don't know if they would ever do that.
We'll see.
That sounds way too generous.
Yeah. I'm not even going to give that a second thought until they announce it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's enough Nintendo talk. Whatever, Nintendo, just fucking carry on. Please. I guess.
Give us something.
So we're gonna spend the next long time. Gonna be a little bit longer of a show, I think, tonight.
Probably.
We're gonna talk about the Xbox Games Showcase that premiered this afternoon. It was at noon Eastern time today. Xbox had their first legitimate, like, big event for next generation. I'll air quotes next generation there.
Console. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But it was their showcase. It was basically their E3 presentation. It was all of the games that are coming to Xbox families of systems on the horizon. Before we get into the games one by one, just like, what was your general feel of it? How do you feel as a primarily Xbox gamer for most of your adult life? How do you feel about that conference?
So overall, I think I'd give them a C. I didn't feel like they ever dwelled too long on one thing, but they didn't they didn't rob a game either of time and like just kind of shove it in there. So I think that for just in terms of pacing on this thing, they did a pretty solid job. They didn't waste a bunch of time with like filler from people that I didn't want to hear from.
Right.
Which has been an issue in various settings in the past.
Yes.
I'm a little annoyed, and I honestly blame both Sony and Microsoft for this. I feel like we've talked about how they're just essentially dancing around the price point, and like they're waiting for the other one to make a move.
Yeah.
So neither one is giving us all the information. They're holding a couple cards still. And like that was very obvious by the fact that they at the very start were like, we're gonna have 5 new games from our first party studios. We've got 5 new franchises or whatever. 9 new games from our 13 acquired studios. And I'm just like, all right, you bought these studios forever ago. There's no way that those other 5 just get to sit around and like do nothing.
I think a little bit
They're
after
doing
that,
something.
a little bit after he said that, it may have been at the end of the show, but at some point they were like, we'll hear from these other studios before the end of the year. And I was just like,
Yeah.
you fuckers, stop playing tennis and just put your goddamn cards on the table.
It made me, because he did. He was like, "Oh, and we'll hear more about more games later. There's going to be 100 at the time that this thing launches." And I was like,
You fuckers.
"What was this? What was the point of this? You're just dragging it out. Can one of you just man up, just be an adult, and tell us everything that is coming, all of your games, all of your specs, your prices, whatever." Ideally, both of you just do it at the same time.
just do one of the like a Western shootout style where you're both like just standing there. You're in the same room, maybe on the same Zoom call. I don't know, whatever the fuck. Just figure it out. Just put everything out at the same time.
That made me like this fucking little dance that they're doing makes me miss whenever everybody just went to E3.
Yeah,
and just put it all out there.
Doesn't
E3
this-
was it. That you finish E3, you're good for pretty much like the next 6 months.
Do you feel like you're being a hostage? Like you are a hostage? I feel like I'm a hostage between these companies right now.
Yeah.
These multi-billion-dollar corporations are holding me as a consumer hostage.
They're like, "Hey, you want information? We'll give you a little bite.
Not all of it.
We're not going to give you we're not going to give you everything because they haven't given you everything." Really? That's how we're going to play this?
Yeah.
So again, I don't blame one of these two combatants specifically because they're both playing this stupid game, but it did affect my general feelings on this showcase.
That's fair.
Especially whenever they said we've got more coming, and I was like, okay. How did you feel about it as somebody who has been more in the PlayStation family for the last couple of years?
I guess I do not. I came into this conference not thinking that I was going to want to buy an Xbox Series X.
Yes.
This conference did not sell me on buying an Xbox Series X. I think that, and I guess we'll talk about it now. I feel like my expectations are appropriate now. Because for the longest time, Xbox has been acquiring studios and like they've been saying that we're laying the groundwork. And for like the past 2 or 3 E3s, we're like, okay, this is the year that they bring everything out. Then it didn't happen.
They've got to have games.
Right. And then it's like, okay, well, it didn't happen last year. This has to be the year. They bought even more studios this year. This has to be the year that they say stuff.
They're just buying all these studios and not letting them work.
Right. And
They're
then that
saying,
didn't
no,
happen.
we don't want anybody to have games.
Right. And then that didn't happen.
Yeah.
This conference was good in that we saw a lot of what those studios are doing. We saw a new Rare game. We saw finally Fable. We saw Halo. We saw Forza. We saw
Apparently State of Decay is a big deal.
State of Decay. Yeah, we saw new State of Decay. We saw Obsidian's new big RPG, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. That was that was the biggest surprise to me, was seeing Obsidian's next game, other than the Outer Worlds. So they showed off stuff.
Yes. Double Fine was there.
None of it, though, like, I don't want to say because I am clearly in the Sony camp, and I'm not trying to disparage Xbox here at all. None of it is appealing to me in the same way that Sony's first party is.
Sure. Yeah,
And
no, that makes sense.
It's not drawing me in to want to be in the Xbox ecosystem. Halo looked great. Like, the gameplay of Halo looked great. That's a game that I want to play.
Halo looked fun.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that. Halo looked really it looked like Halo. It looked like my experience. It looked like what I remember Halo Combat Evolved looking like. Even though when I go back and play Halo Combat Evolved, it looks like fucking triangles on a screen.
Yeah. The Warthog is about 6 shapes together.
Yes. But Halo alone, I can play Halo on my PC. I can get that on there. Or even if I want to subscribe to Games Pass or xCloud when that comes out, there's ways for me to do it without buying the Series X.
Yes.
And therein lies where I think we all need to set our expectations going forward. Microsoft, it's not that they don't care about the games. They bought a bunch of studios. They clearly care about their games. They're really focused on their services.
100%.
They
did not stop saying Game Pass.
They were talking about Game Pass constantly. They kept talking about play anywhere. This was like a Series X conference, and they were like, we don't care where you play your games. Play them on a vanilla Xbox One. That's what they care about. It's their philosophy. That's what they're all about at this point.
Yeah, they're not really trying to sell units.
No.
Or hardware.
They don't need
Which
to.
is just bizarre. But yeah, I mean, they're Microsoft. They 100% don't need to.
We're not going to talk about this story this week because we're not going to have time, but maybe we'll get into it next week. But the Game Pass is more popular than it's ever been. They have so many subscribers right now.
Yeah. I get like heckled by my brother-in-law. He's like, hey, you going to get Game Pass yet? And I'm just like, stop. Do you work for them now? Like, what?
Like, are they paying
Why are you
to,
trying?
What's happening?
And he's like, it's just such a good deal. And I'm like, I know it's a good deal. I know that I should get it. I just have such a backlog still. Getting Game Pass would easily quadruple that. Like that's so overwhelming.
If I was an Xbox gamer, it after this conference and after seeing what's on the horizon, it's a no-brainer for me at this point. If I was a predominantly Xbox player, knowing that I was going to get Halo this year, that's $60, knowing that I was going to get like all of these other smaller games that were announced, like the new Don't Not game, some of these indie games like The Gunk and Medium and Fable at some point. Like, I know that I'm going to get my money's worth because a lot of these games are going to be Game Pass day one.
Yeah.
And I was going to buy the game anyway. I might as well just subscribe to this and get all of it for free. And it's not free. It's just I'm spending my money in a different way, and I get access to a bunch of different stuff. Granted, there's ownership issues, but...
Oh, for sure. I definitely agree, though. It's really weird because, again, this was their Xbox Series X showcase, but if they sold me on anything, it was buying Game Pass.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with you. And as someone that plays predominantly on PS4, I'm not going to go and buy even the Game Pass for PC because I really only want to play Halo. And a lot of these other games that I was interested in, like the Don't Nod game, are console launch exclusives. So eventually they're going to come to PS4. I'll just wait for it until then.
Yeah.
And maybe I spend more money that way and I should have just subscribed to Game Pass, but I don't know. Game Pass to me, if I was an Xbox gamer, I would be subscribed to Game Pass at this point. It's well worth the money. They sold me on that product.
Yeah, it's my mentality has been up to this point. I want to buy the games that I want to play because it is a one-time purchase. I don't want to continually have to pay for these games because I only want to play these 3 games this year. Even though it would be cheaper to do it on Game Pass, I have these games forever. Now I'm just like, well, I don't know. There's a lot of things that look kind of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe Game Pass isn't maybe this like subscription model isn't the worst.
And there's stuff that you could just go in and say you don't want to play. I don't know. For me, I would not want to play probably all of Ori or all of Cuphead, but I would want to get in and fuck around for a little bit and try and play through the first until I get angry, basically.
I think that'd probably hit you more in Cuphead than it would in Ori.
Sure.
Ori was a lot more fun.
But like I would probably get into those games and try them out if they were on Game Pass.
Yeah.
I'm not going to because I don't have that service. Like that if I had it, I would.
Yeah.
So I think that they definitely sold us on Game Pass, and I think I was getting to this point, but Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are just in different places now. We know
100%.
We know what to expect from Nintendo when they actually put stuff out.
Yeah.
Which is they are their own company. They make stuff with their own IP. It's very family centric. Don't really expect that much for online stuff because they don't have a great online system and they don't care. That's not who they are. I get it.
Which is absolutely bizarre because I'll have to dig this up, but there was a book that I read about just the history of Nintendo, and like they wanted to put like an attachable piece of hardware onto a console as early as I think like the Super Nintendo, maybe it was the 64. They wanted to give you the ability to use those systems to use the internet long before anybody else. And it's like, how did you go from wanting to be on the cutting edge of internet to you're literally stuck 2 generations behind the rest?
That's funny. But we know who Nintendo is. Nintendo has
Yes.
told us many times over the years who they are. And now we know
their
who
identity
Nintendo
is established 100%.
We know who Sony is. Sony is all about their first party, big budget, blockbuster, single player games.
Sony is like they're like the movie studio.
Yeah. They put out 8 to 10 out of 10 games constantly. That's what they do. They don't put out bad games. They put out amazing, fantastic story experiences with the highest of fidelity visuals and game changing, mechanics and all of that stuff. They also have a fairly decent. I mean, at this point, PSN and Xbox Live are there's no difference really between them. They're totally fine in that area. They are, to me, they are the premier. I guess I kind of lost my train of thought there. Anyway, they are all about being gamer first. We are the best at gaming kind of thing. Like we are the best. We're putting out the most content kind of thing. They are the publisher, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know why this comes to mind, and maybe it'll make sense without really explaining it, but they remind me of like what you think of when you think of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Granted, if you go to Hollywood, you'll be like, no, never mind. This is kind of dirty.
Like Nintendo,
but if you think of it and you've never been there, you're like, oh, this is where the top of the top live, the cream of the crop, the most talent, like everything's shiny and covered in gold.
Right. Like Nintendo is television. It's Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you have Sony over here is Hollywood, and they are producing the big budget. They are Disney. They are Sony. They are Paramount.
Yes.
Then over here we have Xbox. And finally, after years, I feel like we know what Xbox is. Because for the longest time, I think that we all thought they are trying to be Hollywood. They are Hollywood. They are Paramount. They are.
They're trying to compete with, they're the Universal Studios to Disneyland or vice versa.
Right. That's not it. They're in their own camp now. They are all about Game Pass. They're about service. They are Netflix. And
it's funny. They're Netflix. They're Hulu. They're Crunchyroll.
Right.
What a weird way this analogy worked out.
It worked out well. But they are not trying to have 10 out of 10 games.
No.
It's going to happen every now and then. They're going to have their BoJack Horseman. They're going to have their whatever.
They're going to want their first party studios for all these 13 studios that they acquired. They're going to want success for all of them because that's just going to be, but I don't think they don't want the success. It's weird. They don't want the success for the games themselves. They want the game success to boost their services success.
Exactly. It's exactly that. It's like, okay, you can subscribe to HBO Now. I hate that this analogy is happening, but you can subscribe to HBO Now and have access to all of HBO's catalog. And it is, HBO. It's the fucking best. It's Game of Thrones. It's Entourage. It's The Sopranos. Like fucking the highest of tiered content.
Yes.
Or you could subscribe to Netflix and have a sea of sevens. I heard that somewhere today. I don't know where it was, but it's like so much 7 out of 10 content.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
And every now and then you're going to have a 10 out of 10. You're going to have fucking BoJack Horseman, which is a great fucking television show. But all of the 7s out there get people to buy the service because a lot of it is good. It's at least good.
It's quantity plus occasional quality.
But it's again
like there's a baseline of quality that has to be met for that quantity.
And I don't want to come off
have the really high quality too.
Right. Exactly. I don't want to come off as flippant and say like, oh, Microsoft Game Pass is like really mediocre. That's not what it is.
No.
It's just
you'll have a good time with it.
For sure. And you're getting all of the great games, or most of the great games.
I mean, from the get-go, they advertise it as like you're paying $10 to get over 100 games. And that's consistent. I don't think, ever dipped below that 100 game threshold.
Yeah. But that's who Microsoft is. We now know that Microsoft is never going to put out, like, they're never going to have a conference where they drop a new Halo game and a Banjo-Kazooie game and a Fable game and a Forza. They're not going to have that.
Yeah, they're not going to have the PlayStation event from 5 years ago?
Yeah, 2016, I think, is when they had everything.
Sure.
That's not going to happen. But they do have a lot of stuff to offer. And they're really focused on providing the best service for your money.
And we're going to get I think, continual, never stopping stream of content from them.
Yeah, every month you see new stuff come to Game Pass, and sometimes some things leave. It's never like the Xbox first-party stuff that leaves, but you'll have third-party things like The Office that just decide to not be on Netflix anymore because they've started their own streaming service.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my thought on it. Is that I came out of this. I'm glad that I finally know who Xbox is or what Xbox is.
They established their identity, which is not what I was expecting, but I'm glad that it happened.
And I mean, personally, at this point in my life, it's not something that I'm interested in because I'm not in that ecosystem. But if I was in that ecosystem, this was a great day. Like, this was exactly what I think I would have wanted. Maybe a few more game announcements, but we'll get there.
Holding us hostage.
I guess we can talk about this next one now before we get into the individual games.
Sure.
I noticed something. Some other people on the internet noticed it as well. But a lot of the games that Microsoft announced today are not numbered. You have Halo Infinite. It's not Halo 6.
Yes.
You have Forza Motorsport. It's not Forza Motorsport 8.
Whatever it would be. Yeah.
It's Fable. Not Fable 4, 5, or whatever. It's the game. Is Microsoft moving its first-party games, its major first-party games, into a service model too? We talked about this with sports games. Let's not make a new Madden every year. Let's just put out a roster update and charge $30 or $40 for it or whatever. But like, is Forza Motorsport going to be the service? And every year we'll get new Forza stuff, but we're not getting a Forza Motorsport reboot 2.
This is like Inception. They're selling the games as a service, but now the games themselves are a service too.
Exactly, right.
And
I
don't know.
I have an article. I was going to talk about this during Halo, but this makes more sense to bring up now. This article comes from IGN. Ryan McCaffrey over at IGN wrote this. 343 Industries say that Halo Infinite 2 won't be happening. Don't expect a Halo 7, at least not through the traditional means. Halo Infinite is the start of our platform for the future, said Halo Infinite studio head Chris Lee. So Chris Lee said, Halo Infinite is our start of the platform for the future. We want Infinite to grow over time versus going to those numbered titles and having all that segmentation that we had before. It's really about creating Halo Infinite as the start of the next 10 years for Halo, and then building that as we go out with our fans and community. So for Halo, it is. Halo Infinite is just Halo now. Then all the new Halo stuff that's going to come out in the next 10 years is just Halo Infinite. It's Destiny 2. It's the World of Warcraft.
How it's just strange. What a timeline we're in. 343 Industries that took over Halo, which was made by Bungie, who went to make Destiny,
a service game,
which is a game as a service. And now 343 is mimicking the way that Destiny, at least like Destiny 2 works. Like what a roundabout way to do this.
Hey 343, have some original ideas.
Yeah.
But Halo Infinite is a service.
Yeah.
Forza Motorsport, Fable. Is this just how Microsoft's going to handle their games? Do you think?
Maybe. I'm not sure about Fable because, I mean, we'll get into it later, but not much really was revealed about Fable.
Yeah.
I could definitely see it for Forza, but that's because I don't play Forza.
Right.
So to me, okay, cool. Update the graphics maybe and add some more cars. Make more realistic sound effects. I don't know why you play Forza. It never hit for me. I don't know. I don't know.
Just a thought I had.
No, I could easily see it happening, but it's real tough to say because especially some of these other games, I don't see them being a service kind of thing.
No.
But those three specifically, I could see them doing that.
Yeah, it just was curious to me that they didn't number them or they didn't put even like Halo Infinite. It's not Halo. It had a tagline. So like when it was announced, you could say, okay, it's a sequel. But it's just Forza Motorsport. It's just Fable. So it makes me wonder.
I do think that they did it for Halo because they realized 2 games into their second trilogy that they had just screwed the pooch so bad.
Yeah.
They had completely alienated their audience. Nobody that I know of really enjoyed Halo 4 or Halo 5. They just played them because they were Halo games.
Right. Okay, so before we get into Halo, because this is a good segue, but before we do that, just flat out, where are you on Series X? Are you day one? Are you thinking about getting it at all? What's your thought?
Again, I don't think I'm day one. I would consider getting it in the future just for the convenience factor. But based on Microsoft's and Xbox's new goals, they win because I am strongly considering Game Pass. So if that was their true goal behind all this, all right, good job. You won. I am now probably going to get Game Pass at some point.
And this looks even better when you throw in xCloud. And I don't know that xCloud is going to... They haven't really, I don't think, talked about like availability of games on xCloud and if you are going to be able to play a lot of these day one. But like for me, if it's not available on PC, xCloud is a really appealing service to be able to play whatever on the PC and not have to buy an Xbox at all. Because again, we have fucking $2,000 gaming PCs. Like we're not the person that's trying to buy, that doesn't necessarily need to buy an Xbox Series X. Like we have the ability to play a lot of these games already.
I'm not trying to buy a branded PC because I already have a PC.
Right. Okay, so let's go ahead.
Yeah, I don't see myself, at least again, not at the start, getting a Series X. What might change that is how well everything kind of meshes together. If I can sit here at my nice PC and play with somebody who does get the Series X and there's no issues with communication channels or playing together, awesome. I probably won't get one. if there are hiccups and hangups and weird little things that they have to work out and I can't conveniently play with people, that's a big part of the appeal for having an Xbox for me. That's why I got my 360 back in the day. I wanted to play with a couple friends of mine from the comforts of our own homes. So as a social aspect built in, then I would get it. If I can play unhindered with the same social aspect on my nice rainbow colored PC, neat. I'll just get Game Pass and xCloud and whatever services they're selling.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have a little bit more about why I would not buy a Series X in this conversation about Halo Infinite.
Sure.
So let's get to the actual conference. Starting off with Halo Infinite. I don't really know what I want to like. How do we want to handle this? Like, so they showed Halo Infinite. There was a nice trailer. I guess it was maybe not the opening cutscene, but it was a cutscene followed by some gameplay that was all it very much looked like the second level from Halo Combat Evolved. I'm blanking on the name of it.
The one where it's after you escape.
Yeah, after you
from,
escape the Pillar of
Autumn,
Autumn, and then you fall to the Earth. Echo 419's flying around. It very much looks like
it's this whole new world, and you're like, oh, this isn't going to be a game where I'm playing on spaceships and tight corridors. There's an actual world that I'm on.
Yeah,
nice.
Very much look
Love
like
it.
that. They showed some of the gunplay. Obviously, I didn't recognize any of the guns aside from I think there was a battle rifle at one point. They all look different.
And as somebody who's played all of them, I also didn't recognize many of them.
They look very interesting. They showed new equipment. There was a kind of like a Reinhardt shield from Overwatch that Chief could shoot through it, but the Covenant couldn't shoot back at you.
Yeah.
Because the bubble shield didn't work like that, right? The bubble shield was just both ways. You can't shoot through it, I think.
Yeah. And then they also had those. It was like the shield that you dropped the little Y, and it popped up. I don't know what it was called, but it would be like a. It almost looked like a fingernail.
Yes, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like if you just stand up a fingernail.
Those plasma shields or whatever.
Yeah. You could carry one of those with you and just drop it.
Right, but I don't think you could shoot
Granted,
through
it was
that
a
one
consumable.
Either. Right.
No. This was everything that you had essentially was cover.
Sure.
It did not give either side a distinct advantage.
Right. So this one you could shoot through. Chief also now has a grappling gun, which is pretty cool.
Love it.
There's some really cool melee attacks that he pulled off with it.
I'm convinced that you could improve almost every game by giving the main character a grappling
I would
gun.
say so, yeah.
Just the mobility is so fun.
It really is. And that's part of the reason that I loved Apex Legends. That game attached to me so much is because the movement was so fun with the grappling hooks and with the zip lines and all that shit. So that just having more versatility in the Halo arsenal is going to be fun.
It was such a quality of life thing when they allowed you to sprint in Halo.
Wasn't it an ability at one point?
It was in Reach. Then I think they made it permanent in 4. You could either have a jetpack,
right,
or camo sprint, or run.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It was Reach. Yeah.
Yeah, but the only reason that I really remember that is because I tried playing Halo multiplayer at some point in the last couple weeks, and the first match I was in was Halo 5, the most updated, fun. I could run around. Everything was pretty quick, and then I got dropped into Halo 3, and there's just one movement speed unless you're in a vehicle, and I was like, oh
no,
this was fun and still would be if I hadn't literally just played Halo 5.
And there's some games where you can dual wield and some you can't, and it's oh fuck.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about what did you think of that little showing of Halo? How do you feel about it?
To me, as I think I said at the start, it looks fun. I didn't actually see the cutscene at the start, So I don't know what was going on before.
Yeah, it was a lot of banter between Master Chief and that Marine that was in that cutscene from, I think, last E3, where he found Chief on that spaceship. There was a lot of banter between them back and forth as they crash landed onto what looks like a Halo ring. Yeah.
Are we just gonna like? Are we truly wiping the slate of Halo 4 and Halo 5?
I saw Tim Geddes. Tim Geddes from Kind of Funny had a tweet earlier today that was just so spot on. He said Halo 1 through Halo Reach was like the original Star Wars trilogy. Yeah. Like everybody loved those games. Pretty much critically across the board. The audience is undivided in loving them. The Bungie games are great.
Yes.
Halo 5 or Halo 4 and Halo 5 are very much the prequel trilogy, where some people love them. They're very divisive. Halo Infinite is pretty much the Force Awakens, where it's like it takes pretty much everything that happened or not everything, but it very much calls back to the original game. It calls back to Star Wars A New Hope. It calls back to the original Halo Combat Evolved.
Yes.
And it just feels like they're taking very familiar concepts and applying them in new situations and hoping that nostalgia, along with what looks like great gameplay, makes for a great game.
Yeah. But still, I just, from how Halo 5 ended, like, I'm real confused on what's happening story-wise. There better be a real good explanation at the start of this game.
I think at some point it said that it's been like 5 or 10 years since Halo 5. So there's been a long period of time between these two games.
They had they've got to fill in some gaps for those 10 years then, because man, they left Halo 5 off on a pretty big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the actual trailer. Is it wrong that I was excited that the peace was over between the humans, between Master Chief and like the Covenant? Like just seeing Chief go up against brutes and grunts and like elites. Like I certainly hope that the Covenant split and like you have the Arbiter's Covenant and the
whatever the new
douchehead Covenant.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I hope that you do have some allies and like give it a Halo 2-ish feel. Maybe Halo 3-ish feel. But I wasn't a big fan of the enemies from Halo 4 and Halo 5. So it was really nice to be like, okay, I remember the big angry monkey men.
Yeah.
If you shoot off their helmets, they get mad and charge at you. We're good. I love the piece, but something about this just feels 100% right.
Yeah.
And again, it's probably just them heralding back to what we have nostalgia for. The new abilities look really fun. And it just looks so fun.
It does look fun. As someone, again, who I skipped Halo 5 completely, did not play it. I'm very much in that camp where I loved 1 through Reach. 4 I thought was fine. I didn't have any issues with 4. It definitely felt different, but I was okay with it. And then 5...
4 was okay, because they didn't, like, jump the shark.
Right.
5 they did.
Yeah. So as someone who's not played a Halo game since college, since 2012 probably, I'm looking forward to this. It looks really good. If it's on PC, I'm probably going to pick it up depending on when it falls. That's a big question, when it falls. Because
True.
These consoles typically launch in November. And November has a fucking... they have a lot of games coming out in November. So I don't know if it'll be a day one thing for me, but I'm definitely going to play it at some point as long as it's not trash.
Yes.
Speaking of trash. So have you seen the screenshots?
I have seen some of the screenshots.
What is your thought on the screenshots? If you don't know if you don't know what I'm talking about, go on to twitter.com. This wonderful free website, at least free for right now, website called twitter.com. And just type in Halo and search Halo. and go to latest and just look at some of the screenshots from this game. Specifically, there's screenshots of brutes that look bad. They don't even look like, it's not like it's a situation where they look okay. They're bad.
They you know that nostalgia concept we were talking about?
Yeah.
They decided to, I think, take the original models from Halo 2 for the brutes.
Original textures too.
Yeah.
Didn't even apply new textures. It's so flat. Like,
which is just, I don't like. Okay, so the overall look and art style and feel that was given off in the trailer from like a distance was really colorful and fun. But I am so confused because, like, if you play the Halo 2 remaster, it is so lifelike.
Right. Halo 2.
What happened?
There, you can find a lot of side-by-side comparisons on Twitter of like even Halo 3, but especially Halo Reach and the work that Bungie put into the graphical fidelity of Halo Reach. And you compare it to Halo Infinite, and it's so stark. Like
I just,
Halo 3 had better textures.
Reach was on
this.
360.
Yeah. Both of those.
Like, we're not, this game is supposed to be showcasing the power of a new console.
That's the thing.
And I get that they have to limit it because it's going to be on the old one, but still, the old one is still a step ahead of what Reach was on.
Right.
What's happening?
I don't want to like think that this is like, oh, I'm driving a stake into Halo Infinite's heart, because that's not the case. Halo's always been about the gameplay. The game looks okay in motion. Like, when you're playing the game, it doesn't look bad. But if 343 puts a photo mode in this game, you're never going to use it. That's basically what I'm saying. Is that just like the screenshots just look terrible. My biggest issue with this,
I am fine with them changing gears and not going for the hyper realistic look.
Sure.
But if you're doing a new art style, it should still look good. You can be colorful and almost a little cartoony, I guess.
Yeah.
But it should still look sharp.
Maybe I'm being unfair in this, but to me, Halo is still the flagship first-party game for Microsoft.
Yeah.
Forza and Gears have been around for a long time too, but I still think that Halo has more traction than those other two games.
Yeah.
You constantly talk about putting out the most powerful console. It's the Xbox Series X. It's the most powerful console.
12 flops.
And then 12 teraflops. And then Phil Spencer goes out and says, like 4 years ago, oh, all of your Xbox One X games are going to play on Xbox Series X. You don't have to worry about it. And everyone's like, well, isn't that going to hold back Xbox Series X games?
They'll be optimized.
And then Phil went and said, no, there's not going to be any, hey, 343 is not going to have to sacrifice anything for their game. It's going to run beautifully on Xbox Series X, and it will run flat. It'll run on Xbox One. Okay. Look at this game.
Were they hoping that, like, they could secretly build into the code of the game something that would update the hardware?
I don't know. Halo is the flagship title. This game should look fucking mind-blowing. To me, it should look amazing.
Yeah, it should be. It looks fun, and it looks mind-blowing in that way, but it should look visually stunning, too.
Right. And people keep, like, it doesn't need to look like a Naughty Dog game. It doesn't need to look like even Horizon Zero Dawn or Ghost of Tsushima. But those games, which run on a base PS4 with like 1.4 teraflops of power or whatever the fuck, look amazing. And then you have Xbox's flagship title on a console that is the most powerful console, and it looks like it's running on an original Xbox. It looks like Halo 2. It's not even as the graphical fidelity and the textures are not even to Halo 3 levels. That's not to say
Little-
that, technically it's a lesser game. Obviously, the open world elements they showed off, I'm sure the combat, the way like the 4K resolution, the 60 frames per second, that's all valid. It's just like from a graphical standpoint, from the texture standpoint, from the draw distance and the backgrounds, it just does not look like how I would want it to look.
No, it was not crisp.
Sure, it's still going to be a great game. Hopefully.
Yes.
I guess I can't say I'm sure because 343 has not had a great track record with that.
It appears it gives off the confidence of
Yes.
playing like a great game.
Yes. Moving on. Next thing they showed off was a State of Decay 3 trailer. Have you played any State of Decay games?
Nope. I was somewhat surprised whenever that was supposed to be one of the big ones. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, well, they bought that studio. So the State of Decay 1 was a big exclusive. That was an indie game. That was like Xbox's big indie game to the level of like Journey was on PS3. That was a big game on the 360. And then they launched State of Decay 2, I want to say 2 years ago, summer of I guess it was either summer of 2017 or summer of 2018. And it did not run great. The original State of Decay did not run that great because it was an indie game, but then Microsoft bought that studio and they didn't really fix their engine or anything.
Sure.
They just released basically more State of Decay. The biggest criticism was it just felt like more of the same game on the Xbox One. So yeah, it's been a couple years. It's not surprising that there's a new State of Decay 3. It's not surprising that there's a new game coming out in that series, I guess. But I think it was definitely unexpected that it would be here. Hopefully they fix some of those issues and, hired more people now that they have Microsoft bankrolling them.
It's a zombie game, right?
Yeah, it's like a zombie survival game where you have to like you craft your settlements, so you have to like build up your walls and make sure you have enough food. And the big draw to the series, I think, is that there's permadeath. So if your character dies, you have to start playing as a new character. And you like recruit people to come to your settlement, and it's sort of like some city managing, some survival, some first-person shooter or third-person shooter stuff.
Okay, that could be something that's interesting. Anytime I see zombies now, I'm just like, nah, I'm over it. We had like
so
7 years of zombie games being shoved down our throats. I need a break from zombies, please.
Yeah, the reason I know State of Decay is because that was when I was really into Rooster Teeth, and Bernie used to play the shit out of State of Decay.
Fair enough.
He would talk about it all the time. So, State of Decay 3, no release date on that, I don't think. It was just a trailer.
Yeah.
Then, this was kind of surprising. Forza Motorsport, not surprising that it was at the conference. Everyone expected that. They didn't bring out a car this year, which was great. Thank you for not wasting our time with showing me a car in real life.
Again, really good job on the pacing of this.
Yes, yeah. No release date, though. Would it shock you to know that a Forza game has not come out in 2 years?
Yes. Yes, it would.
No Forza game came out in 2019. 2018 was the last time we got one. We're not getting one in 2020, which means there's going to be, what? 19 to 20. So like 3 years between Forza games. That's kind of surprising to me because it feels like that game comes out every 6 months.
Again, as we discussed earlier, no real attachment here.
No. Cars look good. Cars go fast. That's about it.
Sounds realistic. Not that I would know what these fancy billion-dollar cars sound like in real life.
True.
I'll just take your word for it. Thanks.
Then Rare was up with their new game.
Yeah, that was a shock.
Everwild is their new game. I have no idea what the fuck this game is. What the hell is this game?
Neither do I.
It looks pretty. It looks sort of, again, like there's a lot of like painting art style out there right now where it's not really like, for the longest time we had 3D platformers like Ratchet and Clank or even something like Ori that's like cute and it's like kind of Pixar-esque is what they were going for in style.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of cartoony family-ish games coming out right now are more, they put like a painting kind of like layer over it, or it looks like oil.
I think it's supposed to feel more mature.
It
maybe.
could be. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, it looks interesting from an art direction standpoint, I guess.
Yes.
It had a bunch of weird ass creatures in it, like deer with like fucking weird like Gila monster fins, and I don't know, weird fucking creatures walking around.
They brought one back to life.
Yeah, they brought one back to life by dancing around it with smoke at one point. No idea.
I don't know what this game is about.
I have no idea.
I would like to play it, and this is another thing why I am probably sold on Game Pass, because I don't know if I would want to drop $60 on this game.
Yeah.
Who knows what the point is?
Like, I don't know if it's single player. I don't know if it's multiplayer, because at one point there were like 4 people with the smoke. Is it single player?
Yeah.
Is it multi? At least with Sea of Thieves, we had an idea of what that game was or what it could be. This one, it's like, who knows? It could literally be anything.
It's a game.
I brought this
You will
monster
play
back to life. Is it going to like follow me around? Am I going to fight with it? Like, is it going to be Pokemon with these smoke monsters or whatever? No one knows. It's hard to tell.
Well, we will see.
You said so
I couldn't
many.
help but notice. I couldn't help but notice that there seemed to be a lot of parallels with this game and Breath of the Wild. The big ones that came to mind were, at one point, I assume the main character was like floating in a pool and surrounded by this blue glowing light. I don't know if you remember it that well.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
which was exactly like how when Link wakes up in the Resurrection Shrine at the start of the game, it was like, hold up, is that Link right there? What's going on? And like, I mean, even the name of the game, Everwild,
Yeah,
Breath of the Wild, like, is this your 3 years too late answer to Breath of the Wild? But we'll see. We'll see what the game is actually about.
it's rare. I mean, Sea of Thieves recently crossed 15 million concurrent players, so Rare's doing well right now. Good job, Rare. You have me intrigued.
Yes, definitely. If I could say one thing, I am interested.
Then Don't Nod showed up. I had no idea that Don't Nod was like an independent studio. I thought that they were owned by Square Enix, which is clearly not the case.
No.
Because they have, I think, a console launch exclusive coming to the Xbox Series X. Well, no, actually, I guess it's coming to Xbox One on August 27th. It's a serialized game like Life is Strange. With
this was the one about the
out.
brother and sister, right?
Yes, it is about a brother and a sister. I believe that the brother's a trans man. And there's some like death element to it, and like there's a supernatural element, sort of like Life is Strange, but they're not calling it Life is Strange.
Yeah, they'd like see almost
like
opaque
apparitions
versions of like them. Yeah, like hallucinations, but maybe not.
Right. This looks like the Life is Strange studio making a Life is Strange style game that is not Life is Strange for the next generation or something. I don't know. It looks very interesting. It's a game I'm definitely planning on playing if it comes to PlayStation or if it's on PC or something. Looks like my kind of game. Just hope it's better than Life is Strange 2. Don't
Fair
make
enough.
it quite so crazy, please. What is the Ori's
this next one?
What is the Ori Studios name? What do they go by?
Moon Production.
Ori and the Will of the Wisps is getting a Series X version. That's going to run at 120 frames per second for some reason, because no TV that anyone normal has, like no one aside from, I don't even know who would have 120 hertz TVs. Like film industry people have TVs maybe that are 120 hertz. Anyway, they're making a Breath of the Wild game, or not Breath of the Wild. They're making a Will of the Wisps game specifically for Series X. Maybe it'll cut down on some of those dropped frames.
that was all I could think about whenever they were like, "Your frame rate's gonna be great." I was like, "How about you fix the one that I already played?"
Listen,
Remember whenever I would like jump and just stop for like 2 seconds?
the One X
Can you
wasn't
patch that?
powerful enough. The Series X finally has all the power that Moon Studios needs to make their 2D side scroller run with efficiency.
All I know is that the original Ori game, which was also very pretty, ran just fine.
Yeah.
Yes, this one looks prettier.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. They got too famous too quick, and they brought too many people on, and they just couldn't handle it. Too many cooks.
I'm so confused by the whole thing, but okay.
Too many cooks. Then Obsidian was up for 3 games. 3 games from Obsidian. They showed off.
They got the spotlight for a little bit.
They got Outer Worlds DLC coming September 9th. It looked like more Outer Worlds. That was not a game that interested me last year, and it's not a game that interests me now. Looks like it's trying too hard to be BioShock to me.
It really reminded me of a very strange hybrid of BioShock and Borderlands.
Yeah.
The like humor of Borderlands, but the kind of creepy-ish feel of BioShock occasionally.
Yeah. Agreed. It was on people's. It was nominated for Game of the Year last year when nothing was available to be Game of the Year because there were no masterpieces in games last year. But
sure.
You got DLC coming for Outer Worlds if that was a game you liked, and then they showed off a new game from them called Grounded, which looks like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the simulator.
Yes, I loved that trailer.
It was a pretty good trailer.
Whenever they were like, if you're waiting for the biggest game of this year, wait for Cyberpunk. And I was like, all right, I like you. You can stay.
They were very self-deprecating, and they do have a good sense of humor in that. I don't know what the game is about. Again, it was like you're a kid that gets shrunk, and you're like fighting spiders and ants, and you can let your friend die, and you can run away, and I don't. It's very weird.
That was the other thing that they said. They were like, yeah, you can help your friends or feed them to a spider. And I was like, yes, you really know your audience, don't you?
Yeah. So it looks fun, but it very much looks like an Extra Life game, maybe.
Yeah, and again, just keeps on selling me on Game Pass.
Right.
This is a game I would probably not want to go and spend $60 on. But if I had Game Pass and I could just, turn it on for like a couple hours, I'd be intrigued.
Yeah. Then this is the real shocker from Obsidian. They dropped their brand new RPG. Obsidian, if you don't know who Obsidian is they are former Bethesda people. Well, at least that's the way the studio started. They were ex-Bethesda devs that went out and started an RPG studio. And they published like Knights of the Old Republic 2. They've done RPGs, like big RPGs before. That's what they're known for. And so they announced today Avowed, which is a medieval kind of fantasy game. It looks very much like Skyrim. But if you don't know who Obsidian is, this is basically like on the level of Skyrim. Like that's what you should be expecting from this. So the fact that they showed that off today, I think is probably the biggest surprise from the press conference. Because Obsidian was bought by Microsoft only about a year ago. I think they're one of the newer acquisitions.
Sure.
So to see their game this early is pretty cool.
It's also infuriating that we didn't see the other studios' games.
It's true. But yeah, it looks very much like Skyrim, where he had a sword in one hand and then he was using magic in his left hand.
Yeah.
And he made a rune in the air with his hand, and then he had like the Doctor Strange. You've not seen Doctor Strange, right?
No, I have not.
Anyway, the way he used magic very much looked like Doctor Strange. So it looked pretty cool.
Nice.
Also, the dude's name was Matt Booty. So.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to Matt Booty over at Obsidian Entertainment.
Good guy.
Then they showed off a new indie game called As Dusk Falls. which was I really don't. I was too distracted by like the art style to really be. I wasn't paying attention to what was happening in the trailer. It looked like there was
this was the one where it was in the American Southwest and like.
Yeah, and like the family witnessed like a burglary or something. They like witnessed a crime, and then like the girl grows up, and like you're dealing with the aftermath of the situation like 10 years later. I don't really know.
Yeah, it was very. It did not draw me in personally.
I wouldn't say that the art style drew me in. Just the kind of.
I meant the premise. The premise of the game did not draw me in.
No, I was too distracted, so it didn't to me either. But it's a like a narrative. What do they call it? It was like a shoot. They had a word for it. It's like basically they said it's a Telltale style game. They had a like more mature word for it though. God, I forget what it is.
One that wasn't the brand.
Yeah, one that isn't
their competitor.
Basically, it's a choose your own adventure, but again, it's a better word for it. I'll have to go back and look at it because I want to enter that into my lexicon when I talk about these games going forward.
Sure.
But anyway, it looks like that kind of game where you are. There is probably some gameplay involved, but it's really you are experiencing and kind of driving this narrative forward. It's very narrative focused. It's very much sort of a movie or a TV show playing out that you are helping to drive forward by having agency.
Yes.
Also, it's from the former Quantic Dream. So Quantic Dream, who made like Detroit Become Human, Beyond Two Souls, and what was the other one? The murder one. Whatever. They're basically they're a Sony studio, but they're a second party studio. They had a bunch of Me Too issues a couple years ago with like harassment and just poor working conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of their developers left. One of them left and founded the studio that's making this game, which makes sense considering what kind of game Quantic Dream makes. So it very much looks like it's in Quantic Dream's lineage, which then goes back and reinforces the Telltale style kind of thing where you're, again, making decisions and stuff.
Sure.
Then Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2. I thought it was weird that they called it that. It's not Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga. The way he said it was Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2.
Do you think it's like the European version of Dates?
I don't know.
they just have it backwards.
The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, Episode 6 or 5. I don't know. That's weird. I thought that was weird. Anyway, Senua's Saga was shown off, except that it wasn't.
No, it was not.
They used the.
Did we see anything new?
No. They used the exact same trailer footage from the Game Awards last year. They didn't show off anything new. So you're saying you've had, what, 8 months now since the Game Awards, and there's nothing new to show? You're going to have some guy just talking about the game, standing there with some of the trailer you showed 8 months ago playing behind him?
And this is it's probably a pretty stressful thing to be recorded for this kind of event. But the way that he introduced himself was very interesting to me.
What did he say?
Because he just said, it was as if he had been caught off guard and not prepared, because he was like, hey, like he really dragged it out. And I was like, did they not tell you that they were coming in to film this? Like, is this live right now and you were just doing something? It was very, very peculiar.
Very weird. Then Tim Schafer showed up. Tim Schafer and Double Fine Games showed up with a guest star. Mr. Jack Black made an appearance on the stream today.
And don't you forget it.
And he performed a new song from Psychonauts 2, and he apparently voices a character in Psychonauts 2. He's the little floating ball of light that follows you around, I guess.
Just what I want.
Jack Black's song was very good. It was very Jack Black. It was very, School of Rock /
Yes.
What's the name of their band?
I don't remember.
Oh fuck! What is the Tenacious D? It was very Tenacious D. Does not hold a candle to Bugsnax though. Bugsnax, if we're going off music alone, PlayStation fucking won by a landslide with Bugsnax.
Yeah. If this was supposed to be an answer to the Bugsnax theme, you might as well not have tried.
Just go home, pack up your stuff, and also you can never play music again, Jack Black. Sorry, you
Sorry,
lost. That's just those are the rules.
Those are the terms and conditions that you signed when you entered this competition.
Psychonauts 2 looks fine. I don't know anything. I didn't play Psychonauts, the original one. I do like Tim Schafer, though. Tim Schafer's a really cool guy, and Double Fine puts out some great games. So again, another game that's like fucking Game Pass. I'd probably play it.
And it made me want to go play Psychonauts 1 because I was like, all right, clearly I think I missed something here. Let's revisit.
Right.
Let's circle back.
And I think that I think Psychonauts, they either had there's a remaster that came out a couple years ago. I don't know if it's on Xbox and PS4, but it's definitely on PS4. So if you want to, you could go play that game now.
Yes.
Then Bungie came out, which I thought was cool. They're definitely different because Bungie for a long time had been on PlayStation's stage.
That's weird. You're bringing your ex out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they showed
clearly
off,
you two have figured things out and you can be friends again. Good.
I think it was just money. I think Microsoft just gave them money, and then Bungie was like, "Yeah, that's okay, fine, we'll come back." Anyway, new Destiny 2 version for Series X, and I would guess PS5 is coming out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Cool, Destiny 2. Yay.
Yep.
After Destiny 2, they had like a long list. I think it was like 6 or 7 games that are console launch exclusives. So I don't want to go too far in any of these unless you... Did you watch this far in?
I did. I missed the first one and part of the second one. None of them really hit home for me.
Neither. So
a lot of them felt very generic.
Very generic, and I just felt like, especially at the end of like this part of the conference, I felt like Microsoft is like in this post-apocalyptic like hellhole that they can't get out of. Because Stalker 2, Warhammer 40k Darktide, The Gunk to an extent, Medium, obviously State of Decay is post-apocalyptic. Who knows what Everwild is. It feels like a lot of their games are like these like dark, like like I don't know. It feels very samey with a lot of this.
Yes.
Anyway, Stalker 2, I don't remember what that was even about. I have no
Neither do
memory
I.
of that.
That might have been where my stream cut out for a couple like minute or so.
Warhammer 40k Darktide. What the fuck is Warhammer? Do you know what Warhammer is?
No.
Because after watching this, I realized I have no idea what Warhammer is. Because in my mind, Warhammer is like orcs and men fighting, and there's like a miniature game, right? Like this is the game. Warhammer is the one where you paint the miniatures and you play whatever game that is. Warhammer, I guess, like it's a tabletop game.
I believe you are correct.
And there's like a Warhammer Total War game, right? That's like it's like orcs and humans and dwarves and shit, like in a Total War strategy kind of game.
It's Lord of the Rings.
Right. Warhammer 40k Darktide is like Space Marines with guns. It's like, what the fuck? What is this game? What is Warhammer? I've realized I have no idea what it is.
It's the 40k. They've gone 40,000 years in the future.
I guess it might be. Yeah.
Perfect.
Tetris Effect Connected, which was clarified later on as just Tetris Effect. Sorry, just Tetris Effect, but with a new multiplayer mode, basically, that's DLC.
Oh, what a great couple years for Tetris.
Yeah.
The game that you really thought was kind of just like in history at this point, like no longer relevant, right, would always be there for you.
Like Tetris came out 30 years ago. Who's playing Tetris in 2020? Turns out a lot of fucking people, because it's just the game that will never go away.
how how can we reinvent Tetris? Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. All right, we're gonna release 2 new things with it.
Yeah. It's like over on Nintendo, we got a Battle Royale. And over here on PS4 and Xbox One, we have apparently Tetris with pop music, and now you can play it with your friends.
It reminded me of Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Yeah, it did. Similar
I was
track.
like, is this like Tetris Wild Hearts? What is this?
After Tetris, they showed off The Gunk, which I think is a terrible name for a game.
Yes.
But it looked kind of charming. It was like it almost looked like Reverse Mario Sunshine, where you were like sucking up garbage, basically.
Yeah, instead of playing as Mario, you're playing as a Bowser Jr.
Yeah.
So I think there's a difference between Baby Bowser and Bowser Jr. Because Bowser Jr. is Bowser's kid. Baby Bowser is Bowser when he was a baby, and Mario was also a baby.
I didn't know that. Today I learned.
I believe that is true.
That sounds real. Sounds legit. Yeah. After The Gunk, they showed off Medium, which I think this was the most technically impressive game that they showed off. Like, this was the only game that really looks like it's taking advantage of the Series X hardware.
Yes.
Medium it's not a game I'm going to play because it's a straight up horror game. That's not my cup of tea.
It was way too scary for me. I saw it and I was like, nope, that is not happening.
But it's basically a game that renders 2 worlds at the same time, and you can swap back and forth between them. If you played Titanfall 2, there's a level in the Titanfall 2 campaign that features time travel, and basically you start the level and the level's all like fucked up and broken, but you can go back in time to when like it's a factory and the factory is functioning. So that like there's certain parts of the factory that like you have to jump on this one machine so you can get to another part, but you can't do it in the present day because it's broken. It reminded me a lot. You can't
keep on going in the past because like things are probably locked or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so you're forced to go between these 2 worlds, and it was an amazing level in Titanfall 2.
They had something like that in Hellblade actually. I don't know if you remember, but
I do. Yeah,
you had to like look through the big masks, and you could go to like the happy timeline and then you could go back to the dark timeline.
Yeah, so it's like that kind of thing where there's 2 worlds being rendered at once and you have to go back and forth between them to progress, I guess.
Spoiler alert, it looked like you were scared in both.
Yeah, that's true. Neither one's very good.
No.
But I thought that this looked like the most technically impressive game that they showed.
Yes.
Phantasy Star Online 2, New Genesis. Is this a new game or is this an old game that's coming to Xbox?
I have no idea.
I don't know anything about Phantasy Star.
Really care.
Neither do I. If you like Phantasy Star, here you go. Crossfire X is getting a campaign. I guess Crossfire X was a multiplayer only title that released some point recently-ish, and it did not review well, but now it's getting a single player experience. It looked like Ashton Kutcher was starring in it. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but the guy looked a lot like Ashton Kutcher.
Well, we'll see.
So that's a first-person shooter coming 2020, and it's being developed by Remedy. That's a little bit of a reason to be excited because Remedy puts out pretty decent stuff usually.
7 out of 10.
Yeah. Yep.
Fill that catalog.
Sea of Sevens. Then they ended the press conference. That's not a press conference. They ended the showcase with my
huge surprise.
Favorite
giant shocker.
The thing that we definitely did not know was happening 3 years ago. And that is Fable. It's like they put up the Playground Games thing and it's like, okay, well, we know what this is. And then it's like this cute little fairy flying around. Okay. Gets eaten by a frog. Okay. Title card Fable. Oh, that was it?
That's
cool.
It.
Guess we'll see this game in like 2022.
Yep.
But we have known. I said this like 2 weeks ago. We have known that Playground Games has been working on Fable since 2017. It's been 3 years, and that's all we get at the fucking showcase for Xbox Series X in the next
The thing that
generation.
closes out the show.
Closes out the show. This is like only a half a step above what Nintendo pulled fucking 3 years ago with Metroid Prime and Pokemon.
Yeah.
Pokemon came out a year later. This one did not. This is not going to. Like, Fable is not a 2021 game. Fable might be a 2022 game.
Which comes out first, Fable or Metroid Prime 4?
Oh my gosh. Metroid Prime 4 has to come out first. It has to. It was announced way before. I mean, it probably isn't, but to me, it has to. Here's the question.
Again, it just feels like
Let's play a fun game real quick. I know we're running very long. We're almost done.
it's okay.
This was basically the last thing to talk about anyway. Let's play a fun game really, really quick. Metroid Prime 4, Fable, Elder Scrolls 6. Place those 3 games in years. When do those games come out?
Metroid Prime 4, 2022. I want it to be 2021 so badly, but I don't believe at this point. Fable, I think also 2022. I think it'll be after Metroid Prime 4 though, in terms of putting these in sequential order. I think they'll do Metroid Prime 4 as like a weird spring or summer release, but not holiday. Whereas Fable will probably be holiday.
Sounds right.
And then Elder Scrolls 2024?
Oh my god, Bethesda. Oh my god.
What about you? Where are you putting these?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Metro. I'm gonna give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt and say that Metroid comes out next year in 2021.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Fable in 2022. I think early 2020. I'm not gonna go fall. I think that next year at E3, if E3 exists, they can do like a legitimate showing of Fable. They might at that time declare it as a 2021 game, but then it's going to be delayed and it's going to come out first quarter or spring 2022.
Okay.
And then Elder Scrolls I forget what the last thing we talked about with Elder Scrolls was. There was a story, because you predicted at the beginning of this year that we were finally going to get news about a blowout of it.
Something came out and it was like, hey, don't expect it for the next like 2 years.
They basically said like we just started working on it. I think earlier this year they were like, yeah, it's in pre-production. I think is what they said. That we got it in pre-production right now. You know, pre-production.
Well, I mean, we've been re-releasing Skyrim so many times. Like,
listen, John. Next year, new consoles: Skyrim Series X, Skyrim PS5.
Yeah,
they don't need Elder Scrolls 6 until 2026 at least.
I hate that.
There will be a new Nintendo console between there. They can put it there.
They can release it again. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
full price.
I don't know.
Maybe 70 if we see a price increase.
If it's truly in pre-production and they just are maybe leaving pre-production, it's at least 2 to 3. I'm going to say 3 to 4 years. I'm going to say, 2024.
So upsetting.
Fuck. Okay. So that was the last thing they fucking title.
Is this all like, is Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo, did they all get together and they're like, listen, let's all make an agreement that if somebody leaks a major thing that we want to do, we just screw everyone in regards to that. Is that the mentality? Because it feels like that's the mentality.
It definitely could be.
Oh, Fable was spoiled? We're going to give you nothing for 3 years and then basically nothing after 3 years. Mario 35th anniversary, there's a big leak about like what might be coming out. We're just going to give you nothing for the whole year. You killed 2020. Good job.
Yeah,
Like, I just I don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know.
They're trying to sell products,
Please,
but it feels like they aren't.
be nicer. If Bethesda really hasn't been if Elder Scrolls 6 is really in pre-production starting this year, what the fuck has Bethesda been doing since Fallout 4 came out in 2016? 2016.
When did 76 come out? That was after, right?
Yeah, it was like 2017.
I mean, granted,
2018.
if I remember right, it was hot trash.
It was.
That I don't think ever fixed? Question mark?
Question mark. Yeah. What the fuck? Bethesda. Come on.
Oh boy.
Xbox ended the press conference after Fable by saying that we have more to come later this year, but they did not elaborate what that means.
We all know what it means. It means we're waiting for PlayStation to make their next move.
Yeah.
They're playing chess in a very annoying way.
I wonder, them saying that did not lead me to believe that they were going to have another showcase like at this size. Like they weren't going to have another Nintendo Direct.
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder what they mean if they're going to, because they do like the monthly or like bi-monthly or whatever Xbox. What is that called? They do like a monthly.
I know what you're talking about, but I forget what it is.
It's not ID at Xbox, but it's something like that. Where it's basically a Nintendo Direct, but it's not as like announcement heavy. It's a lot of times like showing off the games that are already announced, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're going to do like more of that with some of the games they haven't shown off yet, or if they're talking about like the Game Awards or stuff like that, where it's like a third party kind of show that they're going to be at with stuff.
Or they really are just going to
just drop another one.
Keep trading punches with PlayStation.
Yeah. Did we miss anything? Anything glaring that we didn't talk about?
I don't think so. No, I think we've pretty much covered everything that's happened in the last like week and a half. Especially within the last week.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining us for a long episode of the Quick Time Event Podcast. If you like what you heard, you can find our podcast live every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time over on twitch.tv/CDR Magnus. You can also find us live. No, I said that already. You can also find us on podcast services across the internet, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and more. You can also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/ I actually don't know because it's a really stupid link because YouTube doesn't give you good URLs unless you're like
you're making them money.
Yeah. So go on YouTube, search CDR Magnus. You'll find us there, or you can just find the link in the description below and the Twitch channels on my Twitter page, wherever you want to go. QuickTimeEvent.net has all that information as well, along with some other goodies.
It really sounded like whenever you said you can also find us, that you said you can falsify us.
You can.
And I was like, oh no!
You can.
Please don't falsify us.
I give you full power of attorney to falsify anything. No, I don't do that. Please don't. That was not certified.
Alrighty.
Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to be streaming more Ghost of Tsushima this weekend. Join me on Twitch.
Oh, you know what?
That.
I did forget one small thing.
What's that?
It's about what's happening this weekend. I doubt that you know or care, but it is Pokemon Go Fest.
Oh.
And you can play it from anywhere since, travel is not really a thing right now.
That's good on
I will be participating, and I will have a full report on how it went next time.
All right. Well, join us next Tuesday, July
28th
at 8:30 p.m. to find out more about John's Pokemon Go Fest experience
Hell yeah.
on episode 109 of the QuickTime Event Podcast. This has been episode 108 of the QuickTime Event Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We will see you all next time.
Goodbye.
That's not right. No, it is right.